Hi, another very important concept that I wanted to look at is the concept of nested classes, and nested classes are also very important for encapsulation. And basically, what nested classes means is, as the name suggests, within a class we have as a member of that class another class, and it can also have other members. It can have fields and methods inside of it, but we also have another class inside of it. And what this means is that the class that is nested inside is just another member of the enclosing class. And this class doesn't have an independent existence. The inner class does not have an independent existence um, outside of the enclosing class, the outer class. And this can again be just as any other member. This can be static, um, or it can be non-static. And just like methods can be static or non-static, this nested class can be static or non-static. And like static methods cannot access instance variables of uh, the outer class, static nested classes cannot access instance variables of the outer class. And so I think this kind of gives you an idea. But this nested class right here, this one has access to other members of the class. It has access to the variables and the methods inside of this outer class. And this includes private methods as well. So this class can access private members of the outer class. So for example, if I had something like so this is an example of where nested classes can be useful. Let's say I have a vehicle class, and I have two classes inheriting from it, a car class and a bicycle class. So I could put my steering wheel class inside of the car class itself, because I don't want a steering wheel to have an existence independent of a car. So that's where this is really useful. And again, nested classes, like they can be static and non-static. They can also have an access specifier. So they can be public, private, or protected. So they can also actually be we can leave the access specifier as empty, and in that case it would be package private. So this inner class will have a scope limited to the package that the outer class belongs to. And another very important point here is that the outer class does not have access to the variables, the private variables inside of the enclosed class. So basically, this does not have access to this. That's not how this works. But this does have access to these things right here. This is totally fine, because after all, this class is just this nested class is just another member of the outer class. And I've talked about variable shadowing in one of my video, and I'll put the link in the description. If you haven't watched it, it's a good idea to watch it. And here variable shadowing becomes very important, because let's say we have an outer class like this, and we have an int x. Let's just assume that this one is static. So int x equals, let's say, 5. And I have a nested class inside of this, and this nested class has another int, also x, and that value is, let's say, 2, and this is again static. So what happens here is that this x right here, it shadows the outer x, shadows uh, the outer x, which is this one. So the outer x gets shadowed or hidden by the inner x. That's what shadowing variable means. A variable of a more local scope hides a variable of a larger scope. So here variable shadowing comes into play. So it's actually a good idea to just not use variables with the same name, because the nested class anyways has access to variables of the parent, the enclosing class. The word parent shouldn't really be used here because that's specific to inheritance. And so when we make such classes, once we make an object of the outer class, so let's say I do outer class C equals new outer class. Once I've done this, I have an object of the outer class, and now what I want to do is I want to create an object of the inner class. And the syntax here is kind of weird, but it also kind of makes sense. So we have to do outer class dot inner class equals outer object. So in my case, this is C dot new and inner class. I don't need outer class dot inner class here, but this is how I make an object of the inner class. So this syntax is something that you'll have to remember till you get used to it, but this is how we create objects of a nested class. And there's another concept here of something called anonymous inner classes, but I'll talk about that later. I think I'll just do a really short programming session on nested classes. And I just want you to remember that nested classes means that the classes need not be concrete really. They can be abstract classes, they can be concrete classes, either one is fine. And I guess we can do any permutation combination of these. So alright, I'll see you in the programming session then.